We had nice feelings about the team coming in, but that's simply on the way the team practiced. I've been around, weeks before any particular game when the team practiced well, and we didn't play very well in the game. So we've been practicing nicely here for about 35 practices or 40 practices, counting spring practice. So we were very anxious to see the team play in person. And I thought we did a lot of things of the type that we set out to do. We ran the ball with pretty good conviction. I thought our backs ran the ball well. Our quarterback had a positive game, which is what we set out to do with him. We were able to create some takeaways early in the game, which we're trying to put an emphasis on. Most of the aspects of our special teams played pretty well. We left 7 points out there that are uncharacteristic.
With the ball disruption, I know you wanted to get back to that as much as possible to start this year. Temple's first 2 drives forcing fumbles. Did that sort of set a tone with what your defense wanted to do?
I think that certainly gave the players a charge because they accomplished something very early that has been a team objective. So when you can accomplish something pretty early, it gives you spark and gives you some confidence.
I guess we can say often running, literally. You talked about the running game, nearly 300 yards. If you could discuss the way the guys up front, the offensive line played today.
Yeah, I thought they did a real good job. Obviously did a real good job for us. We were able to use quite a few different schemes, and they executed all of them well. And, teams that had a difficult, teams that we had looked at playing against this team had a difficult time running the ball. So we thought it'd be a pretty good challenge, and this is a good starter for them. We're going to see a lot of challenges until we establish our authority in running the ball, but this was a positive start.
Marcus's first day at the reins officially in a game situation, 17 for 22. Seemed like he ran his team well.
Yeah, he did. I told him after the game, as we have said repeatedly, you judge a quarterback by his pelts, and that's all that counts. Can you get your team in the end zone more than the other team? And then the other guy can. And today he got his first pelt, so that should be, or his second. He got one last year, so it's a nice start for him. It was important that he had a positive start from a confidence standpoint, and certainly from the standpoint of his teammates, seeing how he performed today.
When you and I talked at halftime, you stressed focus from your team in the second half. After Temple scored, you came back with a couple of scores of your own and got a stop. Were you pleased with the way they responded there?
Yeah, we talked to the offensive team about the fact there that that's what you have to be able to do. You have to tangibly understand the need to respond at that particular time. And we were able to do it with pretty good power, using all the backs, so that was good. That was good.
Coach, thanks.
You're welcome.
Al, last year I think you had Ron Prince and Mike Rowe in the box upstairs.
Right.
What have you changed this year? Obviously they're on the field. Who's in the box, and why did you make
It's just the different dynamics with the people that are on the staff. Ron is our line coach, and he's a very good line coach. And we have a chance to have a good offensive line. Number one, I want to make sure that that the offensive line is well coached during the course of the game. This is really the way that it was kind of my preference for it to be last year. And Ron and Mike preferred to do it that way, and they came to me this year, and Ron wanted to be with the line. And the previous 3 years, whether it was on the field or in the box, Ron and Michael were always at the same place. And so if Ron came down, he wanted Michael to come down with him. And the fact that we do have a new quarterback, that seemed to make sense.
Who's up in the box and what?
John Garrett, and John's a veteran pair of eyes up there, so we feel very good about him. The information that he can feed down to us. Mark D'Onofrio, where he can get a real good look at special teams too. And Anthony Poindexter.
Now, is it fair to say that Jason Snelling gives you an element, adds an element to your offense that wasn't there last year?
Sure, what you saw, Jason provided the answer to the questions that you all have forced me to answer verbally here for a few months. What are we going to do with Jason Snelling? How does he enhance the versatility of the offense, what roles he's going to play? And I said Jason is going to be a good blocker for us. We're going to be able to run the ball with him, and he's going to be able to catch the ball. And obviously he did all three of those things today for us. It's a nice start for him.
You mentioned the turnovers, but you stopped 3rd and 1, maybe 2 third and 1s early.
Yeah.
That makes a statement or set a tone.
Well, that almost that minus the yardage, that kind of has a somewhat of a similar effect for the team as a turnover. But yeah, that's I think was a very positive both from the coaching staff standpoint and from the players. You could certainly their enthusiasm as a result of those stops was very palpable as they came off.
Al, what did you like about Marcus's game today?
Jerry, the primary thing that we wanted to accomplish offensively is we wanted to have a good rhythm in what we did today. And I want to have him play with a good rhythm, and I wanted the team to have a good rhythm. And I think that he did a good job of maintaining that, both with his own play and with the rhythm of his offensive team.
Can you talk about the pass rush? It seemed like that was as good a pressure he's had in a while.
That was another area that, amongst the things that we said that we wanted to do better with our team, that was one of them. I thought we had very consistent pressure throughout the game. One of the things that I want to make sure is the quarterback can never feel comfortable in the pocket. And I think today we were able to probably make the quarterback not be able to get in a good rhythm on there. Our quarterback was able to get in a nice rhythm, and it looked as if their quarterback had difficulty getting in a nice rhythm. And so that I'm very pleased about that part of things.
How does having the third inside linebacker in the rotation help the defense, or how much does it help?
Oh yeah, it helps immeasurably, particularly since Kai and Ahmad pull down multiple roles on the team. You know, if they were just first and second down linebackers, it wouldn't be as big an issue. But they're three down players. Kai's on the punt team. You saw him today on the goal line offense. He plays on the goal line defense. Ahmad's on kickoff return. He's on the nickel. He plays free safety on the goal line team. So those guys are in for a lot of plays. So we can give them, and they're at those jobs because they're obviously the best player on the team to do those jobs. They're not jobs at which we want to substitute the player, so that we can spell them on regular downs. I thought Richie did a good job in there for us today.
With only 4 penalties, no turnovers, almost 50% on third down, is that an unusually sharp season opener?
Well, it's the standard that we wanted to play to. We talked a lot about the things that happen in first games. One of our objectives in the game was to get no penalties in the first quarter. We got one. We had a defensive player kind of jump the count a little bit on a rush, and but that was one of the objectives that we had, and we want everybody on the team to feel personally responsible for what happens to the ball. So yes, I think I'm pleased about that. Those are two things that we think are important to do every week, and to be able to get a good positive start on that the first week is encouraging.
You had mentioned that you thought this would be a good test for your defensive backs. How did you feel they did?
Well, I thought they did a nice job, yeah. We didn't have, except for that one very, very poorly played play at the end there, we didn't really have anybody running free. That was textbook bad. But there were a lot of plays that I don't know if we could say were textbook good, but were pretty decently. The coverage, I thought, was played pretty decently.
Marcus Weeks a good transition from what he'd done in camp?
Well, he's a safety now. You know, this is the real baptism, and he's a safety now, and positive for him to get all those turns. I think it was positive. We had a lot of players who were able to be in their first game. So this weekend accomplished more than it being their first airplane trip, which is what it was for a lot of them. And so it accomplished more than that, and they should have a little bit of a feel for the game. And Byers had a nice play for us, in particular. Santee played quite a bit for us. Had a nice catch. Was at the point of attack a few times. Quite a few of them saw a bit of action today.
How you started, Fontel started and had a very nice first half. Do you have an idea the extent of his injury?
Yeah, he's got a long-term injury. He's got a long-term injury.
You said from what you saw in camp that Rich Bettison was on top of his game coming off the injury. Today's performance, I mean, did that live up to your assessment?
Yeah, I think he stayed right with what he'd done. I thought he did a real good game.
Could you talk about the effect of Pearman's punt return for a touchdown in the game?
It was this, in the same context, Doug, as a number of the things that we've just discussed. We put a lot of time in on our return game, something that Mark brought with him. and we put a lot of time in on the return game, and we're hopeful of being able to strike and do something that change or let us kind of dictate the terms of the game. And so, the players have put a lot of time in on those returns, and when things that they put a lot of time in on pan out in the game, that's a big lift for them, particularly early in the season.
Was that a marginal fair catch? It looked like it was pretty close to being a decision there that he had to make between a fair catch and bringing it back.
Well, I was hoping he didn't have that on his mind. I didn't consider that should be part of the decision at all.
Coach, can you talk about Lundy's performance and coming back to the area where he played?
Yeah, that's very positive. I'm very happy for him. He's a great kid. He just everything he does right, and he does well. Whether it's his academic work, his role on the team, run the ball, pass protection, and so it's certainly, I'm sure, a heartwarming thing for him and his family, and it's a nice story. I feel very good for him. Got his 100 yards today, which is very positive for him. Another one of those for him. And
did you put him back in the game because you knew he was just short of the 100 yards?
no, we just Alvin had carried the ball a number of times, and we just put Alvin in to put Wally in to get a break. And but we had determined that was going to be Alvin's series, and he carried the ball a number of times, and then had made some very, very strong single effort plays. And so down on the goal line, we wanted to let him catch his breath in order to finish the goal line series.
Was this a typical game for Wall when he started out a little slow first couple carries and really got into a rhythm? Is that typical of him?
I hope it doesn't become typical that he starts out slow. I hope that doesn't become part of his MO. But he's got good skills in creating his own yardage. But he's our most physical back, and he's able to grind some things out. Although Alvin, I thought, put his pads down and knocked a few guys down there a couple of times today. I thought he did a good job with that.
Can you talk about the crowd atmosphere? It seemed to be just as many Virginia fans as well.
And I thought the fans were great. Tremendous amount of orange over there that we were looking for, and thought we traveled really well to this game. We're excited for the fans. We're pleased for the fans, and we're glad we gave them a good trip.
Can you talk about Ahmad's kickoff return?
That's kind of exciting. Can see why we got him back there. I probably don't have to say it. If you saw it with your own eyes, you know why he's back there.
You think they were kicking away from him the second time?
That probably they have during the latter part of last year. They did use that pooch kickoff, and so we had practiced against it. You never know when it's going to come, but as soon as it happened, I figured, well, that's probably a response to that first one. Yes.
You talked about leaving 7 points out there. Connor tell you anything as to what was causing him to hook the ball out there?
I thought we'd kind of let Connor enjoy his solitude here for a little bit, and everybody feels pretty good, probably except for him, and so we get away a little bit away from the scene. We'll talk a little bit about what he thought the problems were and how we might get those things corrected.
McGrew was able to stretch the defense there with the deep completion reception in the first half. Is he back to sort of the deep threat speed that he had?
Yeah, I think so, Joe. He was healed long before he was really back, if that makes sense to you. And it's taken a while after the actual healing process was finished for him to come back and be the Mike McGrew that we saw previous to his being injured. And today was a pretty good indication of the fact that probably that process has been, we certainly saw evidence of it in practice, but as I say, in so many facets, practice is different than the game, and I thought we saw good evidence of it, particularly on that play.
Coach, you had 5 sacks for 50 yards loss. How much of that was scheme? How much of that was just a matter of blowing Temple's O-line off the ball?
Well, there was a combination of things. We had a couple scheme rushes that got him. We had a couple straight rushes that got him. We had quite a few, I thought of the 4-man rushes that really disrupted the pocket that ended up passes thrown under pressure that didn't count as sacks but accomplished the mission of the play. We won the play by the time it was all over with. I thought that the amount of hurries that we had, were able to keep the quarterback from getting in a rhythm. Yes.
How you were talking about emphasis and priority, that punt return was like a big play, quick strike score, which has really been kind of rare for you guys in the past couple of years. Y'all worked hard to try to get them and haven't been doing it. Is that a point of emphasis? Do you think you got more big play talent this year?
Well, there were, we've covered a number of them here in this session, but there are a number of things that we had on our checklist that we wanted to change with the team or be able to perform better with, and our return game was one of them. And we were successful in that today. We'll see how many weeks we can do it, but I don't know, that was mostly the same guys that we've had for the last 3 years on the field for that play. Of course, Alvin's been out there, done a real good job for us in the past. And but as I mentioned, that's a scheme that we put in since Mark was here with us, and it was a good addition to what we're doing, and it's exciting to the players to see it pay off the first week.
When you say Fontel has a long-term injury, do you expect him back this season?
Just long term, that's all. I haven't spoken with the doctors yet.
Darden's injury, short term, long term?
Pardon me?
Ron Darden can make a trip.
Right. We're just going day to day on his circumstance. Enough on the injuries. Let's talk about football.
Coach, by my count, you had 5 true freshmen that played. Is that correct?
Did Jackson get in?
No, we played Lyles and Santee and Brown and Long and Chris Johnson. No, Santee, Lyles. You guys can count them up for me. Okay. I think we had. I was looking at the itinerary yesterday when we left. I think we had either 19 or 20 players that this was the first trip that they've been on.